Hey guys, it's Vandy back again from the Card Fight Vanguard deck profiles. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. And let's get one started. Today we have Steam Maidens from Gear Chronicle. If you don't remember Steam Maidens, or at least the specific new main grade 3 Elu, she was originally supposed to be Chrono's main grade 3 unit back in G, or to be more exact, Stridegate, when Chrono Jet was taken away and Jamie wanted Chrono to use Elu because Chrono with boobs is a thing. But unfortunately, Chrono didn't, and it never got seen in the anime. And it did get made into a real card, but never really did anything useful, or at least to my knowledge. Now, it has been made into something in V, and while in V, it doesn't really do something that good because there's not enough Steam Maidens to make use of her. In Premium, she does a lot. But let's go ahead and take a look at the V build, because the V build, while complicated playing, in my opinion, is definitely very fun. So first up, we have our starter in Chrono Drain. I didn't really have a choice of Steam Maiden starters, so I just kind of picked Chrono starter just because, Steam Maidens are meant to support Chrono's deck. Might as well make Chrono's starter support the Steam Maiden deck, I guess. 6k base, 10k shield, gives you with boost. Auto, when it's wrote upon, draw a card, then if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 1 or greater, put a quick shield ticket to your hand. So, a way to get a hand card and a way to get a quick shield, standard ability of a V starter. Nothing too special about it. I just kind of like it, so it's a good choice. On to our triggers. 4 copies of our Draw PG, Steam Guard Castillo. We all know what it is. 5k power, 0 shield, grade 0 with boost, continuous guard, continuous sentinel. You may have it to force energy in your deck, and auto guard circle. When placed, discard a card from your hand, one of your cannot be into battle. It is a draw trigger. It's nothing too special about it either with the draw trigger. It's just, a way to get hand cards and a way to be a PG. For some reason, out of all the triggers I kept drawing during my test games, she is the one that shows up the least. Despite the fact I would rather have a PG in hand than a 15k shield, but sure, just chooses to not show up instead. That works too. 4 copies of the PG though, because you do want it, and it's a way to get hand cards, which you do sometimes need, depending on how you play it. 4 copies of our crit and reclaim Key Draco Kid, 4 copies of another crit and Steam Bomber Deagle, and 4 copies of the only card I could find that was a Steam Maiden in a trigger lineup, Steam Maiden Uluru. Heal trigger, 20k shield, grade 0 with boost. Nothing too special about it. The reason why we run this instead of the Heal Guardian is because I'm pretty sure the Heal Guardian 1 is not a Steam Maiden, and 2, we need grade 0 Steam Maidens. And Uluru is the best one I've got. So, and the only one we've got. So I kind of have to rely on Uluru. I mean, I would rely on Uluru anyways, even if the grade 3 was a Steam Maiden, which I'm not so sure it is, but I prefer Uluru anyways, especially because this deck was meant to go with Uluru. If you don't remember their little snippets of information that we got about the cards before they were released, they said something about you can combine them with Uluru to have some of their effects go off, and that is true, where Uluru does actually help them. So 4 copies of Uluru. Next up, we have our grade 1s. So we needed Steam Maidens, and I went to go find some. There was one Steam Maiden grade 1 that was useful to me, which is Steam Maiden Mellum. Yeah, by the looks of Mellum, you may think that she's only in here because of her name. No, I did mix in the other 2 cards with her. Was that a good idea? Maybe. Was it a bad idea? Maybe. So we'll go ahead and get it started with our skill. 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto rear when it attacks, counter +1, look at top 7. Call up to 1 up clutch dragon or upstream dragon for a Mellum as rest. Shuffle your deck, and if you have an up clutch and upstream on your van or rear, stay on the cold unit. So basically, search your deck for search the top 7 for the grade 3 or the grade 2 of the combo. Call it if you have that thing and another thing on the field that is the other part of the combo. The unit stands whether the units were on van or rear, which is really nice. A way to get multi-attacks. It does cost counterblast, but thankfully Elu doesn't actually cost counterblast, and she gives you counter charges, so that's really nice. And Mellum being a Steam Maiden also benefits her from that. Quite literally, this deck is funky because it has 2 different playstyles mixing in, the Steam Maiden playstyle and then this playstyle of multi-attack with counterblast mixed in. But in all honesty, if you play it right, the decks can get a lot of really good mixtures and a lot of good combos off and a lot of good multi-attacks off. So all around, it's an interesting combo. And we only need 2 of her because once we see 1 of her, we can just keep bouncing her back in between the bind zone and the field. So honestly, it's really good. So 2 copies. 3 copies of Lost Gear Dog 8, 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost, auto van or rear not once per turn. When placed from your hand, reveal a grade 3 or greater from your hand, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 card, reveal it, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck, and if you put a card to your hand, choose 1 or more cards with the sum of their grades being grade 3 or greater from your hand, discard them, and continuous hand. When it be discarded, it may be discarded as a grade 3. Okay, you don't run it for the second ability, you run it to search your main grade 3, because who knows, you might end up with up clutch in your hand, and you do not want that on your Vanguard circle. I did say they have combos, but this deck is mainly Steam Maiden based, so you do not want that thing on your Vanguard circle. But for this first ability where it says you can discard cards, you can discard more than 1, and I feel that's the part where you want to go, unless, because up clutch dragon, you need for the Mellum and upstream combo, so In my opinion, I say instead of discarding the up clutch, unless it's your really only option because you have to discard like good guarding power at that point, discard like a grade 1 and a grade 2 that both are Steam Maidens, or at least one of them being Steam Maidens, so you can bind them from drop later to use Elu skill, which requires Steam Maidens to be in bind zone. So all around, 8's pretty good. He allows for some setup, he allows you to get your grade 3 search, and worst case scenario, you can discard him for your own skill. So 3 copies. 4 copies of Steam Breath Dragon, 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost, continuous vanguard rearguard circle during your turn if a card is discarded from your hand during this turn, gets +5. Yeah, the only card in this deck that discards from your hand is this one, so that's never going to go off, except for his own skill. And auto van or rear, when placed from hand, look at top 5, reveal it to 1 grade 3 card from among them, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck, and if you put a card to your hand, discard 1. Yeah, that's also meant to search Elu, because, you know, there's only 6 grade 3s here, and you don't want to get stuck on Up's Clutch, because while Up's Clutch and his line can help with multi-attacks, you do need Elu for the other half of the multi-attacks, and it's better to get, like, 7 attacks in a turn than 3 attacks / 5, but then all of them are kind of at shit numbers, and they will eat up your counterblast. So Steam Breath is a really good grade 1, and I like it. Unfortunately, it has to be placed from hand, otherwise you could combo it with Elu. Granted, you would only get like 1 extra search out of it, but it's still pretty good, so 4 copies. Next up, we have our last grade 1, which is Steam Maiden Illusory. 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost. Act Vanguard once per turn, soul blast 1 and bind a grade 2 or less card from your hand to draw a card. Then if you bound a trigger for the cost, you draw another card. So really good. It gives you a benefit for binding a trigger because maybe you bound a Luru just because, or maybe like you bounded guarding power because you want to do more rushing because maybe in your hand, well, there was like an up clutch and a melon and all you need is the upstream and you don't want to bind either of them. So, an upstream or a melon and you only need the up clutch and you don't want to bind either of them. So you go with Illusory skill just to bind a trigger and you get 2 draws out of it, or you at least get 1 draw, which is really nice. And then auto rear at the end of the battle that attacked, if you have a Vanguard with Steam Maiden's card name, counterboss 1, bind itself, choose a grade 2 from your bind zone and call it to rear. I really like that ability about her. While she does require the Steam Maiden Vanguard, she doesn't require the unit she calls from bind zone to be a Steam Maiden. So it's really nice, especially because Elu can bind anything from drop. So it's really nice that she can combo with that. And even you can combo it with other cards from Gear Chronicle that just bind from other places. So regardless of their, because a lot of their things, except for Elu, don't require them to call Steam Maidens. So it's really nice that like you can fish stuff out of Bind Zone like that. And all the only requirement is your Vanguard being the Steam Maiden. So all around, really good card, and I like her for it. 4 copies. And she's not a once per turn, so if you find a way to spam her, do it. Grade 2s, 2 copies of Upstream Dragon, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Auto rear, when it attacks, counterboss 1, look at top 7 cards of your deck, call up to 1 up clutch or Steam Maiden Melon from among them to rear as rest, shuffle your deck, and if up clutch Dragon and Steam Maiden Melon on your Vanguard or rearguard circle, stand the cold unit. Yeah, all of them share the same ability. It's literally the same effect, just with different wording very slightly to reflect the other one. So up clutch will have the same wording skill, except instead of calling up to 1 up clutch or Steam Maiden Melon, it will be called 1 upstream or Steam Maiden Melon, and it will also say if Steam Maiden Melon and upstream are on your field, then the unit called that stands. So all around, it's very interesting. It definitely allows for, more combo plays, more multi-attacks. In my personal opinion, I like this card, especially because they don't have to go to open rearguard circle, so you can just call it. And then, unfortunately, you can't get, these units. You have to pick one of the specifics, but, you can kind of filter out your deck, and if you're lucky enough, you can keep spamming their skills. And it's just a really nice, cool-looking card. So all around, I really like it. I do question why Bushy made them this way, but it works. 2 copies. 4 copies of Steam Mechanic Nabu, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept, auto rear when it attacks a Vanguard specifically, bind a card from your drop zone. Okay, we all know that's here for binding Steam Maidens, or not maybe, well, for Elu it's binding Steam Maidens, for everyone else it's just binding normal units preferably, with higher grades. And your opponent cannot call grade 1 or grade cards from their hand to guard circle to the end of that battle. Or, sorry, from their hand to anywhere for the end of that battle. And at the end of the battle, put it to soul draw card. Okay, really nice. Get you a soul. I mean, granted, the only soul blaster here is just this thing, but still pretty nice that they can get you a soul and get you a draw too. And it can set up your bind zone for later turns for free. So all around, she's a pretty good support card, and I really like her for that. That's why I said, you can tech in other binders, even if they're not Steam Maidens, because they help set up your bind zone. So 4 copies. 4 copies of Steam Maiden Isebe, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept, auto rear at the end of the battle that attacked. If your hand has 3 or less cards, counterblast 1, retire it, draw 2. You run her more from the name than the skill, but the skill does help when you're playing a bit recklessly, trying to get out a multi-attack rush, because maybe you're trying to do both the Steam Maiden and the upstream / ups clutch / melon play all at the same time, which is somewhat worth it, but then you're going to run through your resources pretty quickly and run out of hand cards really quickly, especially if it fails, and it wouldn't have been worth it at all. So she's a really nice card that can kind of bring it back from that and get you the 2 draws out of it. Not to mention, because her name's a Steam Maiden, even if you don't use her skill, you can still use her with Elu to, combo with it, and maybe you can call her out of bind zone with Elu when you attack with the grade 1, or maybe you could just call her out with this thing even though it doesn't require to be Steam Maiden. So all around, she's a pretty good card, and I really like her for it, so I give her a 4 of. Next up, we have 4 copies of Steam Maiden Aru, 13k, not 13k base, grade 2, intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto when it's placed on rear from your bind zone, bind a card from drop, and this unit gets +3 until end of turn for each grade of the bound card. So for this cost. So pretty much, if you bind a grade 0, it gets no power. If you bind a grade 2, it gets 6k. If you bind a grade 3, it gets 9k, etc, etc. So all around, very interesting skill, get you power, cool. And then auto rear, at the end of the battle that it attacked, if you have a Vanguard or Steam Maiden's card name once more, counterboss 1, bind it, choose a grade 3 from your bind zone, call it to rear. So all around, pretty interesting ability. It doesn't require Steam Maidens, which is really nice, especially because, I like how they learned from the previous lesson with, what was it? I'm trying to remember. It was back in set 1. Oh yeah, for the Verse V collection, it was witches that they did this with, where they required them to they required other witches, and it was really bad because none of the other witches had synergy with the actual deck's purpose, and I had to make a deck which just really didn't work well just to fit those skills. But then Steam Maidens here, they only require the Vanguard to be a Steam Maiden, because they gave us a main grade 3. That's really easy to pull off. So all around, they learned from witches' mistakes. They still made them an archetype based deck and have better skills with more Steam Maidens involved, obviously, but they still made it to where even with the small amounts of Steam Maidens they have, they can still focus on the deck's main purpose. If only GG could be inquired in this, because I feel like GG could make some use of this deck. But still, pretty good though. Get you a call, and you can also combo all of these with you can combo these with the line over here with upstream, up clutch, and Mellum, because they can call each other. Because Elu can get Mellum out of bind zone, Mellum can get more units, and Elu can just put Mellum back in bind zone and then call another unit, to the point where as long as one of them ends up in bind zone, if one of them is on the field, you just have to rely on the other one to be in deck. Or if 2 of them are on the field and one's in the bind zone, it's not really that big of a deal, because then you can just keep getting stands out of it. So all around, it is a very interesting combo, and I like it. You do require a lot of smart timing for it and a lot of setup play for it, but it's honestly really cool. So 4 copies. On to grade 3s. 2 copies of Up Clutch Dragon, 13k base, grade 3 to drive force gift. I already went over his skill, but if you want to remember what his skill is, it's auto van or rear. When it attacks, counterboss 1, look at top 7, get 1 upstream or up or Mellum from among the top 7 to rear guard as rest, shuffle your deck, and then if upstream and Mellum are on the board, they stand the called unit. So just a way to get extra attacks, really. Nothing too special about it. Honestly, if you want to run them all at a bigger number, then I do suggest it, just so you can see them more, but honestly I think they work fine at 2. So you don't need more than 2, but if you want to run them at 2, more than 2, you can. And then our main grade 3, Steam Maiden Elu. Okay, we already know I'm biased towards this thing because we all see the moon in the background. We all know how much I love it. We got some nice little purple lightning here. We got what looks like clouds in the background. I can't really tell. Oh god, I already love this card. Grade 3, Twin Drive, Force Gift, 13k base, act Vanguard once per turn, bind a card from your drop zone, choose a Steam Maiden and its card name from your bind zone, call it to rear. So you could bind a Steam Maiden, call a Steam Maiden, or you can just bind anything and get a Steam Maiden from bind zone, which is really nice. And it's all for free, by the way, which is just amazing. And then auto van once per turn. At the end of the battle that your rear guard with Steam Maiden and its card name attacked, bind that unit, choose a card with the same grade as the bound card for this cost +1 from your bind zone, and call it to rear if you called a grade 1 countercharge. So a really nice way you can set this up is you can guard with Iluru to put her in your drop zone, bind her with Elu skill, call Iluru right back because she's now in bind zone, put her on a force gift, swing with Iluru for 15, whether they guard or not, doesn't matter. Skill this thing, binds Iluru for free, and then you get to call the grade 1. I mean, you can call anything, but you get to call you would have to call grade 1 at that point, but you can call any of your grade 1s, and you call the grade 1 of the line, and because you called a grade 1, you get to countercharge 1, and then you use the grade 1 to swing on that same force gift, counterboss 1, bounce it, call the grade 2, swing with the grade 2, counterboss 1, get rid of it, call the grade 3, swing, etc., all around. Just from a bit setup, it's a really nice combo you can do, and it only costs 2 counterblast, and one of them gets nullified via the countercharge. So it's really nice, and continuous van or rear guard during your turn. This unit gets +1k for each card in your bind zone. If it's on Van, it gets +3 instead. So you can combine her with herself, because even though you won't be able to go farther than grade 3, because unless you willingly put a grade 4 in your bind zone for whatever reason. I guess I could see that with a bit of mystery fire mixed into it, but it's still pretty good because it can get numbers on rear, it gets more numbers on Van, and it has a purposeful effect. All around, it's a very interesting grade 3, and I think it does its job really well, and I'm really glad to see that Steam Maidens have their own deck now, because that's what I remember before my friend asked me to build him a Steam Maiden deck, and I told him I couldn't do it because of the requirements behind it, and there wasn't a really main grade 3, so it'd just be that really shitty grade 3 that's the what's it called, the one that's the stride ones, but instead of going back to grade 3 at the end of your turn, you go to grade 2. Yeah, and he didn't want that. Now he probably wants this because it's actually really good. And now into our force kits, we run 5 force 1s, 5 force 2s, because I don't think you need more than either of them. A force 1, when it's acquired, it puts on Van or rear, and the unit on it gets +10 during your turn. Yeah, you typically want this just to make sure Luru can actually hit numbers. So when you start off with a Luru into the all the way up to grade 3 combo, she can actually be useful with this skill. Force 2, when acquired, goes on Van or rear as well, but it makes your criticals become 2. You only do this if you're willing to let some of your attacks miss, because this one can bind a card from your drop zone to get power, but the grade 1 won't be able to hit unless you have a booster, and a lure won't be able to hit unless you have a booster. So I think it's probably best. They don't have to swing into Vanguard though, because Illusory doesn't have to swing into Vanguard, and neither does for Elu skill to go off. So technically speaking, as long as they get hit rear guard, they can still have their effect off, which is still pretty nice. So if you want to run Force 2, you can, but I prefer the Force 1 just to make sure they can hit Vanguard and add more pressure on Vanguard. And then we have a quick shield, which is when one of you uses tactics plus 5k for the battle. And then 2 special battles, standard 5k shield. Honestly, this is the one time where you won't use the 5k shield as a discard fodder, because you need actual normal units to go into drop, specifically Steam Maidens, to bind them later. And same with bind zone cost, you want to make sure that they're Steam Maidens so you can combo them later. And that's pretty much it for the deck. It's honestly really fun. It does involve tricky combo play, and I'm still not fully used to it yet, but I know the deck has so much potential. It can get multi-attacks, it can get power, yes, okay, a trigger shuts them down, but one trigger shuts down a lot of rush plays. This is a deck where if they don't see a trigger, they are going to lose so many hand cards trying to defend all the tricky combo attacks that you get out, and especially because they never know if you're actually going to pull off the effects or not, or how far you're going to go into the rabbit hole, so they might overguard a certain attack and not realize it. So all around, it's a pretty fun, interesting deck. We have a grade 3 who gives us a counter charge instead of a counterblast for a cost, makes literally her skill free by binding a card and then getting the card that you bound out of bind zone. And then we have just 2 attackers that can make plays with each other, followed by a grade 0 heal trigger that can just be useful as hell, and just the extra sideboard cards being actually good in getting us more multi-attack and searching. All around, it's a fun deck. I really hope that it's cheap, because I might actually pick this up. And it's a interesting thing, so if you want to test it out, test it out. So don't forget to comment, subscribe, join to the Patreon, join Discord, follow the Twitch, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.